Okay, we are going to practice shading together, and you have this worksheet in your packet. It's called the 5 Elements of Shading. It's a 2-page, so I'm going to demonstrate this quickly. You need to get out your ebony pencil and your number 2 pencil, which is your Black Warrior, or some of you might have a yellow number 2 pencil. That's fine. So you're going to start off. You want to make sure that you have sharp pencils because we're going to shade with the side of your lead. And so we're going to hold our pencil like this, and it's going to allow us to use a little bit more smoothness when we're shading. So I like to hold my pencil and put my point of my lead against the line, and I work in a swirling motion like this. And that's allowing me to get a very smooth shading, and then I can move my paper accordingly so it's not so hard for me to maneuver with my paper and my pencil. But I'm using my ebony. My ebony is a very soft lead, and that soft lead allows you to get a very dark value. Some of you can get that dark value with the number 2 pencil. But if you can't, try using your ebony. It will work wonderfully. We talked about cover sheets. Now, you are going to have a lot of lead on this paper. So my suggestion is to get yourself a little small sheet of scrap, okay? And just put your hand, okay, on that so you're not getting lead all over your hands and then it smears everywhere. So the next one's going to be a dark gray. I'm going to continue to use my ebony, and I am just going to make it just a little bit lighter. I'm still using the side of my pencil, moving my paper to make sure I get nice and smooth. I'm trying to stay in the lines, but I want to get a nice smooth value. Okay, and that's what we're going to work on here. Now, this next one is a mid-gray. I'm going to switch to my number 2 pencil because it allows me to get a little bit lighter. So I am lightening up that value. And you see when I started, I was holding my pencil really close to the lead. That helps me put pressure on it. Now that I'm getting a little bit lighter value, look how far away I'm holding my pencil. And this is allowing me to have a little bit more control of the lightness that I am putting onto that. Again, look what I'm doing here. I'm just swirling motion. I don't want scratchy lines, so I'm working in a swirling motion to make sure I get it nice and smooth. The next one's going to be a very light gray, like a reflected light. Again, I'm very, very light here. I want to make sure that I see the difference between each value that I'm placing on my paper. Now, sometimes we can also use something underneath of it. So if you have like your sketchbook, or if you had a piece of, a folder or something, you could put that underneath here on the bottom, and that would act like a blotter, which would help you get smoother shading. I'm coming in, you can see this one was kind of scratchy, so I'm coming back in and I am trying to smooth that out a little bit. That looks much better. The next one we're going to do is, it's called a cast shadow, shadow edge, halftone reflected light. So this is simply going to be a gradient. Okay, so we're going to go from dark to full white over here. You choose whatever pencil you're going to use, but this is going to be a gradual change. So you're starting very dark, using the side of your pencil lead again. And I am just lightening up my pressure. I don't want to have jumps, so I'm going to come back in there. I don't want it to go directly from light to dark. I don't want to have little lines, but I'm trying to get a very smooth transition. I'm looking that nice and smooth there. Very light. I'm going to switch back to this one here. I need it to get a little bit lighter. And I'm coming back in. There's a little bit of jump there, so I'm coming back in. I'm just going to make sure I blend that in. And there I go. I have this nice smooth transition. There's a little bit of jump right here. Can you see that? So I'm going to come back in and I'm just going to try to make that nice and smooth. There we go. So you have 5 flat values and you have a gradation that you've continued. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make this look like a sphere. We want it to look like a ball, something 3-dimensional. So we're going to pretend like our light is coming from this direction. I've placed my little arrow there. This is where the light's coming from. So my dark value is going to be on the left side. Again, I'm taking my pencil and I am putting the point on the outside of my sphere. And I'm using the side of my lead again, rotating my paper so it's a little bit easier for me to maneuver. And I am lightly letting up my pressure as I come towards the center of my sphere. Now, I like to use my finger. Look at how that just kind of smooths that out. Isn't that nice? It's a little bit. There we go. You also have a shading stump that you can use. See if I have one real quick. Using that shading stump, you can get that point and you can get right next to the line. So your finger is kind of large and you might not be able to get it as smooth on the edges. So if you use your shading stump, okay, that's going to help. And just blending out, making this look like it's a 3-dimensional ball or a sphere. Okay, once you have that nice transition, make sure that all the edges are nice and clean and want them very sharp. I'm going to put my cover sheet down. Now, on the bottom here, you are going to have a cast shadow. The cast shadow is going to look like an elliptical shape. It's going to be like this. Okay, see that there? And that's going to be, it's going to be darker right next to the object. And then we get lighter as we come out. And that is what's called a cast shadow. So you want to put that cast shadow in there. Okay, and there we have that. Now you can go ahead and shade the background if you want to. You can do whatever you want to do, but my main concern is that you have the sphere in here and you have the cast shadow. Then you're going to look to the next page. You are going to mimic everything that you see. Whatever's in this box here, you're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to just do one of them. I'm going to start with a gradation, dark on the outside. And you are going to make it light, light, light. And then it's going to be the same on the other side. So you are just creating exactly what you see in the box above. You can use your Tortillon. Now, that doesn't look complete. I would make sure that I get that whole box filled in. Making sure that it's nice and neat. Don't go outside of the area. Make sure that we have as clean as we can get it. And you're just trying to do exactly what the box above has in it. Again, you can use all your tools. Use your Tortillon or your shading stump. Use your finger if you want to. The finger, like again, you're in a small space here, so your finger is kind of not a great tool to use for this small of an area. So the shading stump works well. Okay, so there's that. Now, what you can also do in this particular area, get my, you have an eraser. Like you see, I don't have a very light line there, so you can take your eraser. You can just kind of do that and maybe smudge it a little bit, makes it a little bit more light. Okay, right there. Now you're going to do the same thing for each one. Down here, you are going to use, you're going to draw these circles in here, okay? Freehand, or use a quarter or a 50-cent piece, or if you have stencils at home, or you can, if you work on it in class, you can use my stencils here. So you're going to draw a sphere, and you are going to, again, mimic the exact same thing that you see in each one of these boxes. Now I can continue to do this, but I think it's self-explanatory. And this is what you are going to be working on, because before we start shading your shoes and your flower, we are going to do, this is just going to be some practice so we can get used to shading. Now back here, I'm going to do this a little bit darker. You can see how behind my sphere the value changes, and this makes things a little bit more three-dimensional. And it gets lighter as I come down. I'm trying to make sure that the background and my sphere are not the same color so I can see the difference between the two. Now, I like to just use the pressure of my pencil to try to get the values. You'll notice if you're using a shading stump, okay? So those of you that are using a shading stump, sometimes when you shade with that shading stump, you can overshade and it get too dark. So just be careful on that, okay? Like where it's dark, this is fine. But now if I came down here where it's a little bit lighter, I have to be careful because I don't want to shade it too much and it not be the same value that you see on your paper. So that is what you are going to do for this particular shading assignment. You are mimicking each one of these in the boxes, and you've already done the front if you did that with me. So you're going to have a 2-page worksheet that's going to be due. Have fun and look forward to seeing it.